Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Perfect Gentlemen. I'm DaMinion.
The promise here, and you know what? It's been kind of a shitty week for Diablo 3. Hasn't really been going their way in the past 7 days. First, they realized that Magic Find is kind of fucked up because everyone is swapping their gear, and apparently they don't like that. Linux has received a whole wave of bans from Blizzard, and there's some conflicting reports about why that's happening. And at some point in the past 7 days, Blizzard realized that there is no endgame in Diablo, and they should probably do something about it.
They only just figured that out.
Yeah, apparently beta testing and developing a game. Well, you know, when they tell you that they never actually finished Inferno, I'm really not that surprised, because they never beat the game.
Yeah, that's true. They never beat it themselves.
Yeah, so you know that's fucking retarded. But you know, let's do first things first here. So they want to change Magic Find. The reason they want to change Magic Find, like I said, is because they don't want people to swap out their gear. Because what people are doing is they have an entirely separate set of gear, and right before a boss dies, they switch it for their normal gear, get the kill with the extra Magic Find, and they don't want this to be a mechanic as is, because it's extremely I don't want to say extremely hard, but it's very clunky and time consuming in the middle of a boss fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so they've set options, and the first option is just to hard cap it. And you know what? Before we started the cast, you had actually made a fairly good analogy onto what that's like.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of WoW. When I don't know if everybody realizes this, but you know, the hit caps, the defense caps, and you know, I think Blizzard decides every single time that instead of actually fixing the problem with something legitimate, they go, hey, let's just implement something else and put a cap on it. Fuck it, whatever. And I feel like that's what they do a lot with Diablo, is they take and they go over to you know, that other part of Blizzard that's running with the World of Warcraft stuff, and they say, hey, we're gonna borrow that idea. Okay, cool, thanks, bye. And I think it's just probably the worst thing that Blizzard could do, because it's unoriginal, and you know, for us WoW players that have been playing it for, I think we're going on 7 years now, it's getting kind of old.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's definitely not a new concept. I mean, I don't dislike that particular idea, because it's, you know, it's a clear-cut goal to reach, you know, and then once you reach it, you're able to gear the rest of your gear towards however you want your build to go, whether it's, you know, attack or defense or a mixture of both, whatever you want to do. And you can do that after you hit this hard cap of Magic Find.
Yeah.
And you know, they've said it can be as low as 100%, which means you just throw on an amulet with the 5 stacks of Nef, and you're good to go. Or it could be closer to 200%, so you got to switch out, you know, maybe 4 or 5 pieces of gear with 5 stacks of Nef to get what you want to get. So I mean, it has its pros and cons. If you set it too high, you know, you might still need to swap gear during a boss fight.
Yeah.
But you know, if nothing else, it'll just add a nice buffer where maybe you don't have to swap as much gear.
Yeah.
During a boss fight.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, that being said, like the other 4 options are really no better.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, option 2 is to just slowly adjust the Magic Find over time, and to really just break that down for any of you guys who play Demon Hunters, it works quite the same way as Sharpshooter, where you know, you you crit and then you watch your DPS slowly build up as your crit moves back up to 100%, it'd work much the same way, where you switch to your Magic Find gear and then you can watch your Magic Find stats slowly build up with a certain amount every second until you hit your maximum cap.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that you were pointing out earlier was in the pros. It says that there's a high degree of visibility, and like you were saying, I'm gonna have to agree. There is no visibility. Like unless you put some sort of a icon somewhere where it shows the percentage that you're at, there is no real visibility to this.
No, unless you want to keep your character tab open, and who the fuck wants that? It's half of your screen.
Yeah.
That's not highly visible. I mean, it has to be because it's half your fucking screen. But that's half of the screen that you can see, and you're probably dying in Inferno. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty dumbfounded when I read that in the pros, because it's actually their only pro, and it turns out that it's complete horseshit. It's fucking dumb, and the cons stand true, where they say that it may not alleviate the problem for players, who still feel compelled to get the few extra Magic Find. So, and I mean, the only way to really work around that is to make the ramp up period so excruciatingly long, that people don't want to switch their gear because it'll take minutes, maybe,
Yeah.
to hit that plateau. So, it's I see where they're coming from, but like I just don't see it being a practical option.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But that being said, option number 3 is even less practical, because between the two of us, we can't understand what the fuck it means.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
it really
It's
blows my
worded
mind.
weird. Use your average Magic Find percentage or your lowest Magic Find percentage in the last 5 minutes. Now, we've talked about this, and we've kind of figured out what the average is. So you have your normal set of gear, which has a set MF value. For most people, it's 0, but sometimes you have like, from like 10 to 20 sprinkled in there. So let's say you have like 15 for your base set. Okay, and then you have your entire Magic Find gear, which adds, let's say, another 75%.
Right.
So then you swap that over, and then what it would do is it would take your two values and then average them out.
Right.
So it would just take the average of both your sets of gear. So you wouldn't have the full benefit of your MF gear for the next 5 minutes, but it would be considerably more than what you would be rocking if you were just using your progression gear.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way better option. I still think that they should go high end, unless they do like a high end average. Because, like they were saying before, it's not going to break the game per se just because you find extra blues. And as a matter of fact, I would almost prefer this if it was on the higher end, just because with the repair costs being so high now, and it being goddamn near impossible for anybody that wants to play casually to keep the money flow going. This could be a good option if they go high-end Magic Find, not this average or lowest Magic Find bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have no idea what the fuck lowest MF percentage even means, because the best I can tell is that's a complete deterrence from switching your gear, where if you are caught wearing your regular DPS set, I mean, that's, I guess, the value that you're sticking with for 5 minutes, which is obviously not the case of what you want to be using to farm items.
Right.
But like, I don't 100% agree with the the high end average, because I kind of feel where they're coming from with the average, because they don't want people to go to the auction house and drop $5,000 on like a shitty blue MF set that pretty much caps them out, and then all they have to do is walk up to the butcher's door, put on all their shitty blue gear that they spent nothing on, you know, and then waltz into the butcher wearing their DPS set and they have like 400 magic find.
Yeah.
Like that is something that I don't necessarily agree is right because people have and will farm for decent magic find pieces, like decent rares, and I don't necessarily think that they should be trumped by people who just go on the auction house and find blues that are just, the lowest cost option available. So, I mean, if they were to go with 3, I would hope they'd stick with the average. I don't necessarily agree with the higher end theory.
Yeah. I just, being as I don't play it that much anymore, I'm still on that hiatus. But I'm really holding out for Blizzard, and I hope that they come back with something that's good. Because right now, I feel like the game's not, it's not playable.
No.
Like for me, it's not playable.
No. Well, maybe whatever they figure out with Magic Find will help that, but it's probably not option 4.
No.
Which is
this is
to just zero out your MF for 3 minutes after swapping gear.
Yeah.
So pretty much you swap, you got nothing, and I mean it serves the purpose of discouraging gear swaps because you can't anymore. If you swap, you're fucked.
Right.
So yeah, I don't necessarily think that's a good option at all. There's got to be some kind of middle ground where
because
4 is not an option.
I didn't even think about this before, but that means that the 75% or whatever you get from the 5 stacks of Nephilim Valor would mean nothing.
No.
Because it would completely zero out everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting thought because, beyond the set magic find values that Nephilim Valor gives you, there are the hidden properties. And as of the last patch, it was with 4 stacks, bosses guarantee you 1 rare. With 5 stacks, champion packs guarantee you 1 rare, bosses guarantee you 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, would it affect that too, or would people be waltzing into boss fights, with 0 MF, their beastly gear on,
yeah.
and then still getting the 2 guaranteed rares from the boss?
And let's also say that you get all the way to the end of Act 1, right? No, let's not even take it that far. Let's say you just kill the, not the butcher, the jailer, right? You just kill the jailer. And he drops fat loot, and it's an upgrade. And you put it on. You just zeroed out your magic find for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You're being punished to upgrade yourself.
Yeah, I mean, but in that sense, if they do keep the cooldown for the zero out low enough, like in the 2 to 3 minute range, like it really could ostensibly be gone by the time you hit your next pack. So,
could be, if you get lucky.
Just to make it absolutely clear, I don't believe that option 4 is an option to be considered, but if they do, God forbid, decide to go with it, I really hope they would keep the timer on it very low.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't even see 3 minutes, because there's times where, you turn a corner, you kill a pack, and then you turn another corner, and there's 2 packs.
Yeah, I mean, you get back to back sometimes packs, and it's just the way the game is set up. It's all RNG. So, I mean, a low cooldown is the best option, but, I mean, there's really no guarantee that, that's still going to be suitable.
Right.
for the purposes.
I would like to know who's coming up with these so I can just slap them. Because, like, these aren't legitimate fixes.
Blizzard came up with them. They had a whole
Blizzard who?
they,
Blizzard who?
I
There's
don't
got to be
know.
one person or a team. I would line them up. You know, like those little kiddie chairs from school, from like elementary school?
Yeah.
I would line them up in a row, and I would just run down the line and just slap them all in the face at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the same people that ruined the series for so many people with Diablo III. And you know, the last option that they posited was gear swapping interacts with Nephilim Valor. So, kind of along the same lines as option 4, but this time if you switch a piece of gear, you could remove anywhere from 1 stack of Nephilim Valor to all of your stacks of Nephilim Valor. Which pretty much serves the same purpose, as far as I'm concerned, as option 4.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. I think this one, although the other one has a timer on it, you know, you could run the Butcher around for a little bit. I mean, I know he's got a timer on him, but you know, you could beat up on him as you go, and then switch, and then run around in circles for 3 minutes, and then, you know, kill him.
You can't.
Well, I mean,
Butcher enrages it. Actually,
but
most of the bosses have a 2-minute enrage timer.
But there's demon hunters that can kill the Butcher in 45 seconds. So I see no problem.
But 3 minutes is still
but 2 minutes is still okay. Yeah. I see your
point.
point.
It's just not happening.
Yeah.
But you know, with option 5, and like I was saying before, just because you're at 0 MF doesn't mean that you're losing your stacks of Neph, which means you're still getting your guaranteed rares. And with option 5, if you do lose a stack of your Neph Valor, you are losing your guaranteed rares. So in some aspects, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Than option 4, because you're not guaranteed shit.
Well,
you're just praying that extra magic find you got is gonna buff up that rare count again.
And again, this is punishing the players, right? Like, it's the last thing that Blizzard needs to do right now is punish the players playing the game, because they've already punished them enough. Now they're saying, okay, well, if you switch out a piece of gear, we're gonna take away some of your magic find, or we're going to take away your Nephilim Valor, which guarantees you rares. And again, same concept. If I walk up and pick up, you know, an item, and I put it on, then I've just effectively...
Yeah, you just lost a stack.
Right.
Which means you got to go farm another champion pack before you get to, you know, your boss.
Your boss, right.
And on that same note, it can really fuck a lot of people up, because, you know, like when that one time you and I were doing the Butcher, and then I accidentally cleared all my stacks of Neph Valor by dragging a skill off my bar. It's the same thing.
Yep.
If you accidentally right-click that amulet in your inventory and pop it on, you've just lost a stack of Nephilim Valor, and your whole run is for nothing.
Right.
And it's that fucking simple. And I mean, you know, they're adding in the action bar lock, so that's, you know, what happened to me won't happen to anyone else ever again. But I mean, you can't really say the same thing about option 5, because I mean, unless they had like a gear lock, which is, I guess, possible if you had like a little lock icon next to your paper doll on your character sheet. I mean, I guess that could work.
Yeah,
maybe.
that would be doable.
Or they also said they could add like a pop-up box, but I mean that's really intrusive, and you know,
it affects gameplay.
Yeah, because it can take you out of the game.
Yeah.
Which you know,
they really can't afford that right now.
It's also still counterintuitive, because their main theory is that you know, swapping your entire set of gear takes you out of the game. So
right.
I mean, that's pretty counterintuitive and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, out of all 5 options, I'm gonna have to set my vote with option 1. I mean, I hate them all, but if I had to choose one, I'd have to choose option 1, just because I'm not punishing myself, and if I get upset because of the way that things come down, I can just blame Blizzard. Like, it's kind of like that Dark Knight theory, you know, where you gotta have someone that they can look at and just be in complete disgust with. And I feel like that's how Blizzard needs to act if they're going to do this change, or they need to come up with better options. Because I'm not gonna play a game that forces me to punish myself. Like that's outrageous, and it would completely push me away from the game. I would feel horrible all the time. Every time I would switch out a piece of gear, and lose my buff or whatever. No way. No way. Yeah, option one.
I agree. If I had to pick one of them, I would go with option one. I mean, I'm not necessarily as against it as you are. I think it's a fairly reasonable change. And setting a hard cap, is to me it actually lends itself a little bit of the essence of Diablo 2, where Diablo 2 had a lot of hard caps that you could reach for various stats throughout the game, and Magic Find kind of had caps in Diablo 2. They were a little undefined. It was kind of like diminishing returns. Really, 400 to 600 was the amount that you needed. Anything past that, just every point past 600 did less than the point before it. But I mean, it wasn't a hard cap. So I mean, something to work towards. I do hope if they do decide to do option one, that it's on the higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Not 100, because that's kind of stupid. You just switch out one amulet and you're good to go. I would like to see, having to dedicate 3 to 4 of your slots to Magic Find for your run,
Right.
just to hit that cap. So yeah, I agree with you. I would go with option one. And to get into why I think this is dumb is because it shouldn't be an issue. They managed to not make it an issue in Diablo 2,
Mm-hmm.
where you could, okay, first of all, what boggles my mind is that from level 1 in Diablo 2, you have 2 sets of weapons that you can equip, and you can switch at any time by pressing W. So effectively, later on in the game, if you were playing like a sorceress, you would have, your Oculus and your Lidless in your main set, and then you press W and you had your Alibaba, and what was the Magic Find shield? Something, whatever. But you'd press W, you'd switch to that, and then you'd kill you get that last 5% of Mephisto. It's like no fuss, no muss. It's one button. You might lose some of your stats, but you can still kill the boss.
Yeah.
So like that was built in. So why they didn't include something like that is beyond me. But then I realized that it doesn't matter, because weapons and shields in Diablo 3 can't actually have Magic Find as a modifier. Unless it's a legendary.
Right.
So it's a moot point. I don't know why they did that either, but, fucking it is what it is. But part of the reason why Magic Find worked so well in Diablo 2 was because your skills leveled up with you actively.
Right.
It wasn't the New Age World of Warcraft style that Diablo 3 uses, where you get a skill at whatever level, and then as you level up, it passively gains more damage.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. In Diablo 2, you had your skill trees, and every time you leveled, you put another point into that skill. Okay.
Right.
And then
player runs the game.
Right. And then once they incorporated the latter patch, you had synergies. So beyond your skill, you had other skills affecting that skill's damage output and utility. So you had skills that leveled up with you to the point where you didn't need gear to kill people, you just needed a good skill build.
Right.
Now the gear doesn't hurt. Having good gear with plus skills always helped. But if you had a competent build, you could put on a full set of MF gear, and you could go do runs, and you wouldn't have any trouble killing stuff. It would take a little bit longer, but you wouldn't have trouble because your build was strong.
Right.
And that's something that they lost in the transition of Diablo 3, where it's not the skills that make your build, it's your gear. More specifically, it's your weapon.
Sounds a
Okay?
lot like WoW.
Right, right. And one of the things that really pissed me off about Diablo 3 was instead of going with the stacking your class's main stat, they went with just find the highest DPS weapon you can find and you're good to go.
Yeah, I can't
'Cause-
even agree with that because with as far as barbs go, you would assume that your weapon damage would be better than your DPS. But if you're going dual wield or two-hander, you're almost better just finding two really high DPS weapons, and you're pretty much guaranteed to own face.
Right, right. And that creates a problem because again, you're basing a majority of your damage on one item.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, not the rest of your gear. And if they had made it so that wizards, if they stacked intelligence, their DPS rose drastically, that would actually more closely mirror the playstyle of Diablo 2. Because then if you wanted to successfully magic find, you would find, a piece of gear that had a lot of dex, a lot of int, vitality, and magic find.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
you
that would
go.
make a lot of sense.
And I hate the fact that they made resistances such a fucking big pain in the ass part of the game because that's a lot of valuable item slots that don't get used.
Right.
And for Diablo, and I've said this before, and I'm beating a dead horse, but in Diablo 2, you just ended up with maxed out resists. It was as simple as that. It just happened while you got the gear that you got. You just looked down and you had 75 and all your resist in hell, and
Right.
you were done. There
Yep.
was no fretting about it. It just happened. But in Diablo 3, you need to actively stack your resistances and build them up so you don't get one shot. And that's a large part, I think, of what makes Magic Find so unsuccessful right now. Besides the way that the game is designed, skill wise, is the resistances. But I'm gonna cut that a little bit short because that's gonna bleed into some of the endgame discussion in a sec. So, okay, now that's something I know you want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Over the weekend, these forum posters started popping up from Linux users who were wondering why their accounts had been permabanned. And, they... Okay, this is one of those stories where it's pretty much just one side against the other, and I don't think we're ever going to know who's right. I just want to say that right off the bat. But the Linux users were saying that they weren't doing anything wrong. They were running Diablo 3 on Wine, and for those of you who don't know what Wine is, it is the Windows operating system for Linux.
Yep.
It is not an emulator. In fact, the popular unofficial acronym for Wine is, well, Wine is not an emulator. So, they were running on Wine, and a lot of these people on the Wine forums believe that because they were running Diablo through a third-party proxy on Linux, the built-in cheat detection program, Warden, banned them for running a third-party program. And shortly after that, Blizzard came out and said, no, any Linux users that were banned because they were cheating. That
Really?
the Blue Post said that they went over the results, and there were no false positives. If you were banned because you were cheating. So that was the official Blue response.
It's one of those. Well, we know that you really want to play, but fuck you. Thank you for your money.
Right. Now, I mean, like, I'm not willing to say that all of them weren't cheating,
Oh, sure,
because, I mean, I'm sure some of them were.
sure.
But the point is that the fucking the wine forums blew up with people who were getting banned, and to say
That all of them were cheating.
yes, to say that with certainty that all of them were cheaters. I mean, it's possible, but like, I don't think that was the case this particular time.
Well, my question is, if Blizzard is saying that they double checked all the results and everybody that was banned legitimately, how do you know? Like, did you scan those forums with a bot that pulled all their names and then like scanned your database with it? Was it was it because they were running a third party program, which could be the case? Have they tried running it with wine? Like, there's stuff. Being a techie myself, like, there's a lot of problems that could happen when you have something that scans a machine for third-party programs or a program that, you know, that could potentially alter the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and another question I have too is, well, I mean, shit, we had Trev. Those of you that have watched our stream, you know who Trev is. Trev went out and he had some sort of a hacking program or something for Sims. You remember that? And then he got his StarCraft 2 account banned.
He got banned on StarCraft because he was running I forget what it was called, but it's a very popular trainer for Sims 3.
Yeah.
And I guess Warden picked it up as soon as he logged into StarCraft, called Cheat Engine, and he got banned from StarCraft 2 for the second time. So, like, second time because he's dumb. But that was another case of just mistaken identity. And when he tried to posit his case to Blizzard's customer support, they were pretty much like, fuck you, pay me. So,
right. Of course.
And I mean that was the general consensus with a lot of the people who were affected using wine. They tried to appeal their ban, and the response was pretty much fuck you, pay me if you want to play it, buy another copy of the game.
And on top of that, though, they would also have to have a VM with the Blizzard games on it, because Blizz doesn't let you play. Like, I don't think you can download a Linux version of Diablo. Like, they don't. They make it for Apple and they make it for.
They make it for Windows. They make it for Mac.
Right.
So but that's the thing, is that it's not VMware. It's actually a version of Windows that runs on Linux.
No. I mean, I understand that. I do. I understand that wholeheartedly.
So, like, technically, it's a third-party program, but it's Windows source code. It's not any different structurally
than a Windows machine.
Than Windows 7.
Right.
At all. It's the same core code. It's just adapted so that Linux can run it.
Right.
And any time that you are running a game under those circumstances, you can take advantage of that situation and cheat in ways that a Windows user or a Mac user can't. Let's make that very clear.
Yeah.
It's always a possibility because you do have the middleman and it is working.
Right.
Again, I don't like to believe that every single person who did get banned in this wave of bans was cheating and using wine. What's actually interesting is that this same thing happened in World of Warcraft like 4 years ago.
I don't remember that.
4 or 5. Honestly, I don't remember. It's been a really long time, and a lot of my memory in WoW is blurred. But I'm pretty sure that if you guys Google like WoW Linux bans, you'll definitely get hits because that it was a huge thing that happened in WoW too, where there was just a month where all these people using Linux got banned, and it was pretty much the same thing. They just went into the forums and was like, "Dude, I just got banned for using Linux. What the fuck? What's going on?" And then Blizzard puts out a blue post, and they were just like, "No, they were cheating," and they're like, "We were just running it on Linux. Can we have our money back? You know, fuck you, pay me."
Right.
So I wouldn't be quite as skeptical as I am if the exact same thing, like literally to the number, hadn't happened in a separate game that uses the same cheat detection program that they use for Diablo 3. So like that's a little bit of doubt, but then on the other hand, they use the exact same cheat program on StarCraft 2.
Right.
And people can run StarCraft 2 on Wine, and as far as I know, no one's gotten banned. So,
Yeah.
you know, who knows? Maybe they're all cheaters. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But it's another thing where it actually doesn't matter because Blizzard has handled their communications so poorly in the past that people are naturally going to side with Linux users because they don't trust the things that Blizzard has to say right now.
Oh, I don't think anybody does.
No, and it really does have a lot to do with their lines of communication. They only say things when they absolutely have to, and it's a shame because if they did speak more often, I feel like it would be a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I think they need to hire a lot more people that scan the forums.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not only that, but I mean, like when Diablo came out, and it was error 83 every 5 fucking minutes, and then they just didn't say anything. You know, they just let the game not work, and then fucking 6 hours later, come with a blue post saying, "Yeah, shit's broken. We're working on it. We'll let you know." Like that's it? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
For any of you guys who play League of Legends, when League goes down, Riot Games updates their forum post on what's happening every like 15 to 30 minutes.
And that's the way it should be handled. Like,
exactly.
You know, working in a technical field myself, that's the way we do it. Like if there's something down, we notify people. Like that's what we do, and we do that every 30 minutes or so. You know, we'll have a group chat going, and I'll put something up in there like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing to fix it, and this is how it's gonna, pan out from here. So, you kind of have to keep those, and when you do that, people get so happy. They're like, oh, okay, well,
they know.
Yeah, because they're like, it's not the unknown. It's kind of like your girlfriend cheating on you or going somewhere for 2 months, comes back and then says that she had fun with other guys but won't tell you exactly what she did. It's that not knowing that just drives you up the wall until you finally crack and you become an over obsessive bitch.
Yeah.
And she ends up breaking up with you over it.
And it's the same thing. So like, I mean, really, any support they're not getting from this issue is really just them digging their own graves, because I mean they handled it like crap in the past, and it's come back to bite them in the ass now because no one believes the goddamn thing that they say.
Right.
So like I said, for all we know, everyone that got banned using Wine was cheating, was hacking, was botting, and should rightfully be punished. And a lot of people are just going to take their side anyway because that's just the way of things.
Right.
So, it's a possibly developing situation. We might hear more about it as time passes. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I don't really...
So, just to keep our eyes open.
I can't really agree with this at all. Like, as much as I'm not... Knowing the fact that computer programs fuck up, like, I can't... Like, I'm not going to be able to let this go. Like when
fair enough.
When when Blizzard comes out and they don't say, like if they get hacked, they tell you the day after or 2 days later. Like, why don't they just tell you then? Like, hey guys, we're getting hacked. Don't log in right now. Like,
Right.
I mean, that would be a simple solution. People get hacked. Anonymous does it to people all the time. Like, you can't stop it. It's not a it's a part of life now. You tell your users say, "Oh shit, thanks for letting me know. I won't log in so that people can hack my account."
Right.
You
Right.
know, it I don't know. I don't
No,
know.
and it's like we've been saying. It's all about culpability and communication,
Yeah.
and that's areas that I
Blizzard
think.
needs to strengthen.
Yeah, and it's weird because in the past I think Blizzard was at the very least okay
Yeah.
with communication, but
But
then slowly over time, maybe it just it's gotten too big,
yeah, I think
or
they're starting to
what
become
have
like
you.
Rome. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like old school Rome, where they own so much, and then the whole kingdom or the whole empire just fell.
yeah,
It's the same thing, man. Like when you get too big, you start to lose control of things, and I think
yeah,
that's what's happening with Blizzard right now. They've got so much under their belt, and you know what? This is a really bad year because they're releasing so many games this year,
yeah.
and
And they're releasing a lot of games, and it's not like we're living in strong economic times
right,
at the
right,
moment. It's just it's a weird combo. But like I said, it's something that we're going to keep our eye on
yeah,
and see what happens.
yeah. I'll be interested to see how it pans out.
Yeah. So all right, and then finally, Blizzard has realized in their ultimate wisdom that Diablo ends after you kill Diablo on Inferno.
Mm,
There is no reason to keep going. The
go
game
figure.
ends. And like we said before, when you don't actually beat your fucking game yourself in alpha, this is the type of shit that happens. You realize that you are fucked, especially since you've just completely nerfed Inferno and let people run through it. So you're
Yeah.
just really speeding along your own execution.
Yes, and you have to remember this. When I was playing through, I think it was Hell,
Hmm.
and we were coming up on Inferno, and I was like, I really hope that when we get to the end of Inferno, there's more. Like they snuck something in on us. And of course, Blizzard disappointed again because in game is killing Diablo, and listening to Tyrael say that he's going to once again be our brother or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the reason why this is happening is, like I said, they never beat their own game, so they're just fucked from the start. But more importantly, is they broke a working formula. Like, people have been playing Diablo 2 for 12 years.
Right.
Actively been playing Diablo 2 for 12 years, and there's still shit to do in Diablo 2 for your characters. And the reason is just because they made the Diablo 2 was just a system that, while it wasn't perfect, it worked. Like, that
Right.
was the most important thing. It wasn't the most beautiful game out there. It wasn't the most easy game to get into necessarily right away. And like I said, it wasn't anywhere near perfect,
Right.
but it worked. Like, it synergized with each other, and you just kept playing it because you wanted to get that item, you wanted to make that rune word, you wanted to maybe hit that next breakpoint, or you wanted to get that item for PvP. Like, whatever it was, like, there was always a reason to keep trying to like, attain stuff for your characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that Blizzard really needs to work on for this game.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think they can.
N- you.
No,
Uh.
I don't think they can. And there's a lot of key points as to why I think that way. Number one is just, okay, they haven't done their whole revamp of legendaries yet. So part of what I'm about to say might not hold true in like a month,
Hmm.
but most of it will. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, legendaries are garbage. No one wants them.
Right.
No one wants legendaries. People get legendaries and they get upset because they know that when they identify, they're gonna hate themselves.
I haven't even found one yet, so.
Right. Well, you're better off. Okay. I found like 6. I've only been able to use 2.
Oh, Jesus.
Um. Okay. Legendaries in past Diablo games served a very important purpose. They were benchmarks that you used for your character. Okay. If you wanted a zealot paladin and you were, if and you had beaten hell,
Hmm.
okay, you needed a vampire gaze for a helmet because it had life leech, because it had mana leech, it had stats that you needed for that particular build.
Right.
They were static, this is something I've talked about in other podcasts. And again, I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but I mean, these changes ring in so many aspects of the game that you really can't help it. Okay, you needed those specific stats for your character, and they were set in stone in the legendary. Okay, like when you found a vampire's gaze, you knew
Exactly what you were going to get.
that when you identified it, it was going to have these stats. Like the values were randomly rolled, so
Sure.
there was always a value range, but you knew what you were getting, and you could plan accordingly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, they threw that completely out the window with Diablo 3. Every item is completely random. 100%.
Yeah, I don't think that.
No guarantees.
I really don't think that Jay Wilson decided that he was going to go back and look at the other game and the way that it was built. I think that he probably heard that Runic Games made it random. Like, everybody, that was the big thing. It was random, 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 random. But he didn't look at the fact that not everything is random. It's just the maps, the creeps, and the stats. Not that I'm going to roll on a bow and get intellect on it, but that I'm going to roll on a bow and I'm going to get these stats, but like you might get +1 to dexterity.
Yeah,
Not that that would ever
exactly.
happen, but it's a possibility.
Right. Right. And I mean, that's a big problem because you don't have benchmarks to gear by. You just really just go through an entire act and pray to Jesus something that you get can be used somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to pray that all of your stars align so that you get stats on like a pair of gloves that you need, and
Right.
like all the stats that you need, which, like I said, with the inclusion of these ridiculous resistances, is like 6 stats you need set in stone. It's pretty ridiculous. Okay, and then another part of it, like I said before, is that because they've completely changed the skill system. If they had made dexterity, intellect, and strength the main damage modifiers for weapons,
Yeah.
while the gear is completely random, that would actually have helped their cause because then you have, you want gear that has over this amount of strength or dex or I mean, you still kind of do, but it's even more important. So you do have stats to go by, but even that's a very imperfect solution because it doesn't make up for the fact that your skills aren't powerful enough on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And which is really what Diablo 2 was. It was all the skills, and then all your gear just gave you supplementary stuff.
Right.
And to be frank with you, the most important thing that they fucked up in terms of gearing and longevity was taking rune words out of the game. And for those of you that don't know, rune words were pretty much runes weren't attached to skills in Diablo 2. They were physical items that you found on the ground, and you could throw them in sockets. And much like the gems in the current iteration of Diablo, depending on what you socketed it into, it had different properties. But if you had a certain combination of runes, a certain combination of runes, and you had an item with the right amount of sockets, and you put them in the right order, you made something called a rune word. And rune words really were the most powerful things in Diablo 2 because they had far more than the normal allotment of stats. And they had stats on that you could not get anywhere else in the game. It was only in rune words.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, was a very important piece of what kept Diablo going, was that unlike a legendary item where once you find it, you find it, a rune word, especially the higher level rune words, each rune itself was like finding an upgrade to your gear. And I mean, some of these rune words had 6 runes in them, so that's 6 runes you have to collect before you even get your weapon. And I mean, for a lot of people who needed that Breath of the Undying, or Enigma, or Call to Arms, like, that was a major force to keep people going, is they kept grinding out those runes to make their rune words, and it really made searching for this shit last so much longer, but it didn't feel wasted because you were still
Searching for that item.
striving towards a goal.
Right. That's the thing about Diablo 3. There is no goal.
No.
They give you no goal. There's no stopping point. You know,
No, you just find stuff.
right. And in Diablo 2, you know, there was a goal. You'd set out for that goal, and if you would just continue to play until you could, you know, get to the goal. Whereas with like what you said with Diablo 3, you just kind of find shit and you equip it, and you're like, that gives me these stats, but not these stats, and I kind of need these
that's
stats.
The sad part about Diablo 3 is you find it and you either use it or you don't.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, there's no. You know what I can do with this? I can make like a melee Javazon. Maybe I can use that. Lots of crushing blow and deadly wounds. Like, there's nothing like that in Diablo 3. There's no like creative.
There's no creative
wheels
aspect.
turning in your head when you find an item. You're like, I can use this on a tune that I have, or it's a downgrade and I'm going to sell it. Like, there's no in between. And like Diablo 2 had a lot of stats that made a lot of different builds viable that weren't, you know, crit or like dex. There was like I said, crushing blow and deep wounds and stuff like that, where, you know, you could use them on a variety of different characters, and it gave you very unique properties to a lot of items.
Right.
And nothing is... I mean, everything's unique in Diablo 3 because nothing's the same.
Yeah, which is really weird.
Which in your head kind of sounds cool until you realize that, like, it's unique a lot of the times because it's shit, and you don't want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, like those two-handed swords with, like, 120 int on it.
Yeah,
or those
right?
barb belts with dex. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with that?
I'll dodge more and have 12 resistances.
Yeah, but I lose like 1,000 damage.
Right. And I mean, and that... I think that is the one thing that really cemented Diablo 3's downfall was that DPS stat. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, the minute that I opened up that character sheet when I got my beta invite and I saw that it calculated your DPS, I knew that Diablo 3 was going to be a lost cause for me, because that's not, in my experience, what the game series is about. It's not min-maxing. It's not, you know, the World of Warcraft mentality of, you know, I'm going to kill this boss as fast as I possibly can with the best loot that I can. You know, and like, you know, it's all like progression. The guy would be the best.
Yeah.
And you know, there certainly was that aspect of Diablo 1 and 2 as well, where there were items where you wanted to get them so you were just fucking retarded and could just plow through the cow level in like 3 seconds and feel like a god. You know, but a lot of it was all striving towards like personal goals. And, you know, that's just not the mentality that they had for Diablo 3. Especially, like I said, with the DPS, it was always just like, make that number higher,
right,
while not dying. Like, that's the point of the game, is you make that number go up but you still are able to kill things. Like those are the balances that you have, and it's really just old.
Yeah.
It's just really old, and it's been done before, and it's
So
not
many
innovative,
times.
and it's boring, and people are latching on to this upcoming PvP. You know, like it's gonna save the game, and I'm telling you right now, it won't. It won't save the game because for PvP to save the game, they would make it. They would have to make it as far from Diablo as they possibly could because that's not what Diablo PvP is all about.
Yeah. They would have to make it extremely rewarding.
Yeah, which Diablo PvP isn't. I mean,
Right.
it's personally rewarding, but there's no physical rewards. And it's really. Oh, are you shitting me? I'm sorry.
It's cool.
Apparently, either the nuclear power plant up the river from me is melting down, or they're testing my readiness to escape. In the case of a meltdown,
Run
but
away!
I'm hoping it's just a test. I apologize for the horrible robot noises happening.
That's right.
It,
You might turn into a giant mutant beard.
what the fuck was I saying? PvP, right?
PvP.
I'm actually really bummed because the format for the PvP is like 4-on-4 arenas, and while that's cool, I know for a lot of people, what made the PvP a lot of fun in Diablo 2 was the duels. It was just the one-on-one
Right.
combat where you pit your build against their build and made the best build win. And that was a lot of fun for a lot of people. And I mean, I used to sit, dude, PvP in Diablo 2 was like an underground fucking society. Like, for any of you who PvP'd on US East, if you PvP'd legit, because there was a lot of duped and hacked items that made PvP really imbalanced. Well, not like PvP was really balanced in the first place, but they were just really unfair items.
Mm-hmm.
So these underground rooms sprung up that were just legit PvP rooms, and you kind of had to know somebody to get in them. And, you know, every week they would change the name and password of the room. So, like, you always had to be in the know to get into these rooms. But I would sit in these rooms for hours and hours on end and just do one-on-one duels with people
Yeah.
of all classes, and it was always fun because you'd win some, you'd lose some, but you'd always learn, and you'd always try to tweak some shit and like maybe get some more crushing blows so you stun them or like whatever. And that was it was really rewarding because you would just keep fine-tuning your character until you could beat like any build that came at you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it would just be all-out fucking war. Like you walk out of the gates of Tristram and you're just dead. Because there's like assassin's traps or something, and everyone is flagged for PvP, and there's just barbarians whirlwinding across the fucking plains, and you know sorcerers teleport at shocking people. Like it was just sometimes pandemonium.
Sounds like old school WoW PvP server.
Yeah, pretty much. It was you know open world PvP. It wasn't structured. Unless you decided to make it structured, but that was always on the user's end. If you wanted any kind of structure, you had to set it up yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much just walked outside of the gates, flagged yourself, and then
Go to town.
yeah, either go to town or say, you know, hello, do you want to duel me? And they'd be like, yes, I do want to duel you. And then you'd go off in a corner of the opening stage by yourselves, and just you hit go, and once they type go, you just go. You know, and it was a lot of fun. And for any of you who did participate in legit US East PvP, if you ever faced a werewolf named I Lick Myself, that was me. I was fairly well known for my perfect giant, cruel giant thresher of quickness with a perfect socket. It was made me broke, but you know, whatever. So, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what we've seen from the Diablo 3 PvP, it does seem like they're going in a very World of Warcraft route with it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like 2v2, 3v3, 4v4.
Yeah, well, as far as I've only seen 4v4s, they might have other configurations, but it's the same thing where you party up, and then I would assume you queue up for it,
Ugh,
and
please
then
no.
you queue up and you battle. Now, the problem with that is that you're making it way too official,
Yeah,
okay? And then people are going to expect it to be fair and balanced because it's like this official PvP machine.
right.
But you can't make it fair and balanced without ruining the single player game. Some skills are just going to be overpowered in PvP, and you just have to deal with it because you need it for single player.
Yeah,
And that's always how it was in Diablo 2. Like, it was just whatever skill at the time was just weirdly overpowered. Like, that's what people ran with.
right. Well,
Paladins were spears, paladins were zealots, paladins were Fist of the Heaven users, paladins were Hammerdins. Like, it just was what it was.
well, the one thing that would make PvP sort of fun is if you're allowed to switch out your runes and your abilities without any kind of cooldown. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, that would require true skill. You would have
Switch.
to run away, switch it, and come back. And especially if they put, like, obstacles on the map, you know? I think we tested some of the PvP a little bit at BlizzCon last year.
Didn't I will when I say we didn't, I
Well,
did.
you did, I didn't.
I played. We ended up
Yeah, I was at the cosplay, I think.
no. Yeah, because I was coming back from the room and I was waiting for you to get out, so I did some PvP.
Yeah.
But then when we went to get on the PvP line the next day, we ended up on the single player line anyway. It was
Yeah,
weird.
but we at least saw some of the people
Yeah, it was
play.
you know, your standard preset arena with teams fighting in it.
Yeah. Yeah, which, if I don't like arenas in WoW, I doubt very seriously that I'm going to play arena PvP in Diablo 3. Like,
Yeah,
they're kind of fun to watch. They
yeah.
take a long fucking time, but they're all right to watch. And Diablo 3 doesn't work the same as WoW. Where did they get these people from? It's not the same game.
It's just this homogenization of like Blizzard IPs that they're just trying to mix everything together. I will say that they have data mined some buffs and debuffs that look like they are directly related to PvP.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it is possible by using those buffs and debuffs to balance PvP
Right.
in a fashion where the buff affects each skill a different way and it evens everybody out so that, monks aren't popping, bubble blind mantra of conviction and, doing quadruple DPS for 3 seconds and you're dead and you can't hurt them.
Right.
That's fucking overpowered. And I know that with my current setup, I can probably, like, 3-shot your barbarian, and you couldn't do shit to me because I'm invulnerable.
Oh, you're a dick.
But everyone's gonna have that combination of abilities.
Yeah.
Like all the classes are. You can go Wrath, ignore Pain, and then just go to town on somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Like-
and then
like-
not take any damage
Right,
at all,
like,
and
everyone's
deal a
gonna-
shitload.
Right. Everyone's gonna have their combination of just it's pointless to even fight you. So like if to make it successful, like they need to find a way to even that out. Because like I said, I don't think they don't have a. I don't think they have any chance of changing the core gameplay in a way where they can really extend the end game because it's all about the items. The items suck. So all they can really do is add more content. But like people don't play Diablo for content. People play Diablo for loot.
Customization. That's why
So,
I played
like,
it.
Right. Which really is just loot. Like it's all about the loot and
Well, that and the abilities, but yeah.
right. Well, yeah. The skill builds and the loot. So I mean, they'd have to do a complete overhaul of the actual item system in general to achieve the type of end game that a game like D2 had.
Right.
all they can really do is add content. So, but I mean, the one saving grace they might have is if they can successfully pull off PvP in a fashion where, it is fun to play, it is balanced, it is fair, and it does not affect single player like WoW. Um, I think they actually might have something good on their hands.
Yeah.
And all I can say, like, they're in a really shitty situation right now because, they are hemorrhaging players, not as much as they were, but I mean, they're still losing their player base, so it would behoove them to release PvP sooner rather than later. But then on the other hand, like, you kind of do want them to wait to release PvP till it's perfectly polished and ready.
Well, one would hope so. They fucked up the original game.
Well, right, but then then you're playing this weird way game where, it took them how long to put out D3, so how long would it take them to fully polish PvP before they get it out? And will there even be a point, because will there even be a player base when it comes out? So it's like, it's this weird game where they need to do something soon, but they need to make sure they do it right at the same time.
Yeah, see, none of this would have happened if
Blizzard
they wouldn't have rushed everything.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they could have rushed it. They've been working on it for so long, and it just came out somehow half cocked and buggy as shit.
Well, I can kind of tell you, okay, being in IT. So, I move into a new role, and 3 people leave. Okay. When I move in, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Their documentation is completely out of date because they had gotten to the point before where they understood exactly what they were doing and how they were doing it. But just right off the top of their head. So Jay Wilson moves into the old Runix Games guy's spot, and he's like, well, fuck. I have no clue where to begin. And it takes him 2 or 3 years. He starts guessing because he gets tired of not knowing what the fuck to do. And it's kind of hit or miss after that. And in this case, he missed. Way off course. So, hopefully he learns from his mistakes and fixes it. I know right now he's talking shit to people, but
yeah, and doesn't just tell people that their memories are false as it concerns Diablo 2, like about hard facts. Like, I got into that last podcast when I really just lost my shit because he just was being a cunt and it was pissing me off. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. Where it's because I forget that team left to make Runic Games, so it's not the same people, and it's starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's pretty much a recap of Blizzard's shitty week, and thankfully for us, I'm sure they're going to have more shitty weeks in the future. So we'll definitely have plenty of things to talk about.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
At all times, I mean, I can't wait for the PvP patch because I'm sure we're gonna have 3 weeks of material worth after that
easy.
potential debacle.
I'm gonna play the shit
down.
out of it just for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So I'm thinking we should just wrap it up there. We've gotten some pretty good things out there, and again, if you guys have any comments or questions, bottom of the YouTube page, let us know. And if you do ask us questions, like legit, if you ask us a question about something that we've talked about, like we will answer it.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah.
So, I know there's not a lot of you guys yet. We're hoping that changes. But like those of you that we do have, like any input's welcome. So, comments, because comments are golden, because that's going to shape the show as it goes on, and questions too, so we can try to include you guys in this whole process. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. That one-on-one interaction really is really what we're driving for, because it just brings out the best in both of us, I think.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. So, on that note, I'm the Promise.
and I'm Dominion, and we're
And
gonna
we
draw this
will,
bad boy to a close.
yeah, talk to you guys later.